in a family, the children's stuff or the family stuff falls to, like day-to-day stuff, falls to mum. What's seen to be like the bigger issues, bigger conversations fall to the man, fall to dad. But I think everyone should try and be across everything. A lot of people thought or think that there is a cap in terms of how many children you can claim child benefit for. There is no cap, right? There is a benefit where you are capped to 2 children.
Okay.
And so people kept on referring to it as the 2-child benefit cap. But what they meant was the 2-child benefit cap, not the 2-child benefit cap. So you put in 2,000 and they put in 500.
Okay.
So because this is per child and per year, so let's say for you, four kids, right?
Yeah.
So let's say they were in childcare for 4 years, from 1 till they start school at 5. That's 4 years worth of £2,000. That's £8,000 that you could get from the government per child.
It's Not Another Money podcast. Why is it called Not Another Money podcast, you may be wondering? It's because this is not your typical money show. Get ready for real money conversations and lessons, expert insights from some of our very special guests, and hear some really inspiring stories from everyday people. On this podcast, you're going to learn how to earn more, how to spend less, how to grow the difference, and most importantly, live your best financial life. Hi Funmi, welcome to Not Another Money podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show today. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for asking me to come on.
Yeah, no, thank you for honouring the invitation and coming on. I'm really, really excited to talk to you about a subject that a lot of my audience have been asking about in terms of family finances and money management as a mother. So definitely going to dive into that topic in great detail during the show. But before we do all of that, in your own words, tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do and why listeners should stay tuned to today's episode.
Okay, so who am I? I'm Funmi Olufunwa. My former career was actually in law, but finance law. And I did that for 18 years. And then I trained to be a financial coach. And then I also trained and qualified as a mortgage advisor. But now what I do is go into schools and colleges and workplaces and teach personal finance. I do that because I believe that there's a huge gaps in knowledge that we have. I'm fortunate to have learned stuff, but only because that's what I was doing as my job.
Yeah.
If it's not your job, you maybe don't have access to that information, and it's not kind of as normal to you as it is to me. And I just think that the more information and knowledge that we have, the more likely we are then to take positive actions and look after ourselves and our money, which then will enable us to look after our families, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Amazing. And yes, we're definitely going to be talking a lot about that on today's show. But before we do that, what I like to do with my guests at the start of the show is play a game. It's an icebreaker of Would You Rather, but it's the money edition.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you some scenarios and I'm going to ask you whether you would rather A or B, and you just pick one of the two.
Okay.
And you're not allowed to change your mind.
Oh, okay. Right.
No pressure.
Rules.
Yeah, I know, all these rules and regulations. Okay, so would you rather have the ability to transform any hobby into a 6-figure income or get paid 6 figures for doing absolutely nothing?
Ooh. I think get 6 figures for doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You even thought about that for a bit. Why?
Why did I think about it?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I'm thinking that the first option, I think a lot of the time we're trying to monetize everything, right? And sometimes I think a hobby should just be a hobby.
Yeah.
Just because you do it just because you love it. And once you start to monetize stuff, I think then sometimes the joy of the actual thing goes away. And so I wouldn't want that to happen with a hobby that I had.
Yeah.
Versus doing nothing and getting 6 figures and then still being able to have my hobby.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would choose.
Okay.
That's why, yeah.
Yeah, I would take the 6 figures to do nothing, but I wouldn't have thought about it or hesitated. Like, yeah, give me that money,
You'd
please.
go straight to it, right?
Oh, yeah. Give me the money. No hesitation. Okay, the next one. Would you rather be given £50,000 to live without your smartphone for 1 year or £50,000 to give up social media for 3 years?
These are so good. Without my smartphone. Oh, gosh. Okay. So, can I have a phone but it just can't be a smartphone?
Yeah.
Okay, the first one then, phone.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I would definitely go with that too, because smartphone, as much as it would be very inconvenient not to have one, right? At least I can have a phone to make phone calls and text messages, and then I can use my laptop or
Exactly.
iPad or anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, A as well. So the next one then, would you rather get paid to travel the world but never stay in one place for more than a week,
Okay.
or settle in your dream city but never leave it?
Oh, God. These are brilliant. I think I'd say settle in the dream city.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Really?
too much change. Every week you had to keep moving, you and your family. That's a lot. That's tiring. And I'm
That's
thinking
true.
a lot of packing up. No, I think I'd do the second one. So I'd be settled in my city.
And never leave.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think that's what I'd do. Yeah.
I'd have to go with that too. It's the lesser of the two evils, right?
Yeah, neither of them are great, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But hopefully it'll be a brilliant city with lots going on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's parts of London that I've never been to, right?
True.
So if it's somewhere like London, I think that'd be fine. But I'm just thinking, like, come on. I mean, I've got one kid, you've got four. Can you imagine every week moving your whole family?
Even going on holiday with the four of them is a lot of work. So yeah, it's impossible. I'll definitely go with B. Absolutely. Okay, so the next one is...
Oh, there's more. I like this.
Yes, two more to go.
Okay, cool.
Okay, would you rather have a financial safety net that guarantees you'll never go broke,
Right.
or unlimited opportunities to make big financial bets?
So I'm veering towards the first one because there's that safety net, right? But then the second one, are we saying that it could work out well, but then it could also work out really badly?
I guess because it's financial bets. Then
Yeah. Okay. So no, I'm going for the first one.
Yeah.
I like security.
Yeah.
So I'll go for the first one. What about you?
Same, definitely the first one. Yeah, because especially with all those four kids, I need that stability. I can't afford to take those kind of risks and end up homeless. So yeah, I'd go with the first one. And then the final question then is: would you rather live in a futuristic world where currency is time, or in a barter-based society with no fixed value for goods?
Where have you got these questions from?
My good friend ChatGPT.
Bestie.
Yeah.
I think I'm going the first one.
Really?
Yeah. Because I feel like currency is kind of time at the moment anyway.
True.
But the barter system, to be fair, I should be good at that, right? Because my background is in law. I should be a good negotiator. But yeah, no, I think I'd go for the first one. Yeah. What about you?
I think I'd go with the second one.
Okay.
I say that it would just be nice to experience it. I don't know if I could have that as my life forever, but I do often wonder what it was like back in the Bible times when they were trading in goats and sheep and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, it would be quite cool to like trade in produce as opposed to money. But I don't know how sustainable that would be in the long term. But it would be something cool to experience, I reckon. So I'd go for B, but not forever.
Okay. I like those.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, thank you so much for playing. Okay, so the next segment of the show I like to do before we dive into the main heart of the conversation is a segment that I call Not Another Money Moment. So this is Not Another Money podcast, and I like to invite my guests to share a significant money moment from their lives. So it could be from childhood or adulthood, just any kind of significant money moment that's had an impact on you and how you view finances or how you manage your finances.
So I did think about this one, and age is like when I was little. It's quite a random story. Stay with me.
Yeah, sure.
I found £5 on the street, and I made my mum take me to the police station to hand it in. And apparently, this is what they told me at the time. They said, if no one comes to claim it in 6 weeks, then it's yours, right? So, now I don't know whether they were just being kind or whether that was actually the rule or not. Yeah. But I waited my 6 weeks. And then I went and no one had claimed it. So they gave me £5. And I felt like really rich. Like, oh my goodness, I've got £5. But I also felt like I'd done a good thing. I think I'm a bit of a goody two-shoes, to be quite honest.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. You found £5 and you thought, I should take this to the police station. Around what age were you?
I must have been under 10.
Wow.
Yeah. There was just something in me that was like, this isn't mine. I was like, this is obviously somebody else's. They've lost it. So they could come looking for it. And when you lose things, maybe you go to the police station.
I love that. I love that your mum took you to hand it in.
Yeah, because I don't know if I'd take my daughter.
I'm definitely not doing that. Give me that £5.
But the thing is, I think the way that shaped me is that I'm quite careful, not frivolous with money, and I think I really value money. And I think that's kind of how I guess I manage my money. I'm not very extravagant. I don't buy like loads of things. I'm not like a big clothes person or anything like that. And I don't know, I don't really get my joy from like spending loads of money for the sake of it. But I guess maybe I'm a bit of a hoarder. But I really kind of like the security and the safety of having money. Kind of goes back to one of those questions, right? Like I like to know that I've got enough for what I need.
And let's unpack that a little bit then. Why do you think that is? What does that stem from? Is that a childhood thing that you think it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I just like security, I guess. I like security, I like safety, and I like to know that I can do things myself. I think maybe we were raised to be... I was actually talking to my sister about this the other day, and we we're talking about how we think our parents... It's quite funny, because in some ways, they want us to kind of be compliant and listen to what they say, right? But then in other ways, they've raised us to be really independent women, to not have to rely on someone else. So I think that's just kind of always been instilled in me. But for me to be that, I need to feel like I've got that safety and that security. So, you know, I chose a career. I liked the career at the time when I chose it, but it was also something that paid well. And I don't think... that's no coincidence, I think, that I chose that, right? Yeah. And that career, as I said, kind of did that for a long, long time, that actually allowed me to be able to do what I do now, because I was able to sort of like earn well and save money and then have a pot of money that I could then live off while I'm doing all this new stuff here. So yeah, I think I've always just been someone who quite likes stability. I don't like financial surprises. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And thank you for sharing. Okay, so then what we're going to do now is kind of delve a bit more into the heart of the conversation, right? And we're going to talk a bit about financial education and financial literacy for women and for mothers, and a bit more about your story, actually, in terms of you were in business law. No, sorry. You was in law.
Yeah.
Financial law.
Yeah.
Finance law, if that's what you call it. And then you made the transition into financial education. Number one, just what made you go into the law space, and then what made you transition into personal finance?
Yeah, so I went into law because as my dad said, you're very good at arguing. And I thought that that's what law was. I liked speaking, and it looks really interesting. Like at the time when I was choosing it, there were all these programs where it looks so exciting. Like you're doing all these deals, a lot of these American programs, like you're doing all these deals, and it's like really, it's just really interesting, and you're dealing with these high profile things. Like, let's be honest, like most law isn't like that. So you go and you watch these programs, you kind of got an image in your head of what it's going to be like. Because obviously, to make a program interesting, they show you all the good stuff. In real life, as a trainee, you're doing a lot of... So I did a lot of this thing called paginating, which is where they make bundles of documents, and then you have to number them like 1 to 500 or whatever, and you're literally sitting there with a stamp that goes 1, 2, 3, 4. I did that quite a lot of the time.
Wow.
Very different to what I saw on the TV. I was like, oh, this isn't the dream that I was... This feels a bit different. But I'm sorry, I'm going a bit off track here. But yeah, so I chose that because at the time I thought it'd be an interesting career, and it absolutely was. So I trained at a law firm in London, stayed there for a bit, and then you have to like spend 6 months in different departments, and then you qualify. So I qualified into what was called the commercial team. That's just very general commercial contracts. But then I did like a pro bono case. We used to do work with legal advice centres where the trainees and other lawyers in the company would go and basically work at a legal advice centre, and members of the public come and get free advice. So I was doing that, and one of the cases was a case about a finance contract, which I'd never come across before, but it was just interesting because a lot of the law I did was like stuff that wasn't very tangible. So it's like big projects or big deals, but you don't really kind of identify that. But this was like an individual, and they had a problem. I think it was her car agreement or something. And so I kind of started investigating that type of law. And was like, oh, I quite like this. And I wanted to do more of that type of law, but the law firm that I was at, they didn't do it very often. So I moved to another law firm, and that's all I did. So then I got into the world of banking and retail banking and credit cards and loans and mortgages and current accounts and savings products and all of those like everyday products that we all use. And I found it quite interesting because it was really relevant, because like, oh, I would use this, I get it. So I did that for ages. And yeah, I worked in a law firm, and then I started working in the actual finance companies themselves. And like I said, I did that for a long, long time. And then it got to the point where I was a bit like, I don't know if there's anything new anymore. Like, I've been doing it for 18 years, and it's quite a long time. But I was also really aware that we're selling all of these products to people, but often at the other end of maybe like a customer journey, there's a customer that maybe has got themselves into a bit of financial difficulty. And it could be for lots of different reasons, but some of the reasons could be maybe that they didn't really understand what they were getting into in the first place. And that's kind of what made me then start to be interested in financial education. So quite a few years before I started doing what I do now, I joined this national organisation called the Financial Education Forum. And we'd meet and we'd talk, and it would be like members of the different parts of the industry, and we'd talk about improving financial education. And then as time kind of went on, I realised that I didn't want to do just law anymore. So I left the law and I was trying to think of other things I could do. So I did a financial coaching certification, and then I also qualified and trained as a mortgage advisor, because lots of people I was speaking to wanted to ask questions about getting on the property ladder. It's like a big topic that lots of people want to know about. And so I did that for a bit. I worked as a mortgage advisor for a bit. But what I realised in loads of the mortgage conversations was that a lot of the conversations I was having with people was like preparing them for the mortgage, because they might come to you like a couple of years before they're ready, and it's like helping them kind of get their finances in order, so by the time they apply, they're in like a really good position. So I spent a lot of time just talking to people generally about their overall sort of personal finances, and I was like, that's the bit that I really enjoyed. And lots of people say, God, I wish I knew this sooner, or why does no one teach you this stuff? And I was like, yeah, it's a really good point. And it kind of was like the thing that pushed me to be like, just try and see what you could make of this if you do this full time. So that's a really long-winded way
it's good.
of getting to where I am now.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to hear the backstory and the journey, your journey, to understand what led you here, and to understand why you're so qualified to now speak on the topics that we're going to be speaking about today. Because it's not just, something you decided yesterday that, oh, I'm just going to start talking about money online and here you are. No, it's been years of learning and qualifying to now put you in this position to have these conversations.
Yeah.
So no, that's incredible. Okay, so then, interested to know a little bit more about your story, right? In terms of your personal relationship with money. So you said obviously you was a bit of a money hoarder, you would say you were. How does that shape your money mission, and how does that relate to your mission to empower people with their personal finances, if it does?
Yeah, it was interesting actually, because I think I have to remind myself that that's my money personality, and obviously people are different. So more recently I've been much more open to doing things other than just saving my money, right?
Yes.
And it's then helping people to understand that there are different options for your money. And also I'd say when I was younger, because I was very much I need the security, I was very kind of cautious about taking any level of risk, which meant that actually when it came to my pension, so I did have a pension with my very first job, but I didn't really know what they were at the time. The person that came to I remember having a one-to-one meeting with this financial advisor that came to the law firm, and I think that probably in itself was quite intimidating. I was like in my early 20s, and there was like an older man talking to me about her pensions, using words I didn't understand. I didn't at the time obviously ask enough questions, and so I was just like, I'm gonna lose all my money. So I plumped for like the safest possible investments to go for, not realising that I've got like 40 years worth of growth. So that probably wasn't the best idea for me at the time. And so I look back on that now and I'm like, this is how I thought when I was younger. So this is maybe how people think now when they hear words like investing or they think about pensions. So because that was my experience then, I don't want people to have that same experience. That's why I do talk about these things a lot, and also just try and use really normal language so that people, they, number one, they understand, or if they don't, they feel like they can ask more questions, because I didn't feel like I could ask enough.
Yes.
Or I just didn't understand. And if I had done, maybe things would be a bit different in terms of where, my pensions are at the moment. But I kind of want to create what I think I didn't have at that time. And like I said, then make people realise that it's not just about saving. There's other things that you can do with your money as well. And also that you can enjoy your money as well.
That's good.
I think I spent a lot of time saving, which is not a bad thing. But, you can also have fun as well. So it's kind of, it's the whole thing about balance, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's good. And thanks for sharing. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the topic of finances for family. That's the heart of the conversation today, right? Because I think a lot of mums are in a position now where they have children and they're thinking about the future for their family. But personal finance, like you've just been alluding to and talking about, it's a fact. It's personal finance is one of those things that a lot of us weren't taught in schools, or family may not have necessarily told us this, and we just become adults and we're just supposed to figure it out without having that education. And now we have kids that we're raising, that because we don't know, how can we teach them? So for mums at the moment, what do you see from your experience with working with families is a common financial challenge that mums face today?
I think if we're thinking about the environment that we're in today, a lot of people that I speak to are worried about sort of covering all of their costs, because we have seen over the past couple of years, we've had inflation, haven't we? Like significant levels of inflation, which has meant that prices have gone up. And so a lot of the worry for lots of people that I speak to is actually, how can I have enough money to cover all of this? And then I guess that's kind of like the main worry that I see. And then also I see people wondering and asking the question like, am I doing this right? And I think that's even a bigger issue, I think, from not having any sort of financial education or formal financial education, is that people are like, I feel like I should be doing something, but I don't really know what it is I should be doing. So like, am I doing it right? And I think that's quite a common thing that people want to know. And lots of people are, but they maybe think there's something missing, or that there's something that everyone else is doing that they don't know about. So it's that kind of slightly anxious feeling that you're not doing the right things with your money, and then also trying to make sure that what you've got covers everything, and you have some left over to kind of like save if you want to save.
And then what would you say is doing the right thing with your money?
So I think the first thing I would say, and it's really obvious stuff, right? So it's things like not spending every single penny or more than you have. So ideally, and I say ideally because I realise that this isn't the case for everybody. Sometimes the maths is not mathsing. Like sometimes it may mean that from when you look at your budget, there is more going out than there is coming in. So yeah, ideally you wouldn't be using credit for like kind of everyday type things. There are some areas of, and I'm not against credit. I always try and say this. I'm not against it, but what I really want people to understand is how it works and how using it can then what that means for your future. So if you know what you're getting into and you've got a plan to pay it all off, and you're not going to pay too much, for example, interest on it, and that works for you, and you're that's fine. You do you type thing. But I think if you're using credit for the day to day, then how are you going to get out of that? So my things would be understanding what's coming in and going out so that you can like budget, trying not to use credit where you don't have to, and then saving where you can. But also really importantly, especially for mums, is protecting yourself. So I speak to a lot of people and they've got a savings account for the kids. They might not have a savings account for themselves. They are thinking about, I want to do this for the children, but they might not be doing those similar things for themselves. So, and then often they're not, maybe they might not have insurances that would protect them. And I know a lot of people who don't really think, when we have the money conversation, we talk about products. I don't find that people talk about insurance related products and protection type products enough. And actually they're really important, even more so when you have a family, because if you are, for example, working and your income is what's used to pay your bills, if you can't work and you're not earning that income, how are the bills getting paid? So I think sometimes we might focus too much on the future, and I totally get it. Like, we want to provide for our children, we want to save for our children, but sometimes I'm like, let's take a step back and let's think, okay, what could we put in place, or what other things we think about to make sure that we are covered and we're sorted as well. So I often say to people who say, I want to save for my kid, I kind of ask them questions about what they have for themselves, because our children have got the benefit of time. We can't, that's the one thing we can't go back, we can't undo time, right? So we should be saving. We should be making sure that if we want to invest in a pension, I think pensions are a really good thing to definitely think about and consider. But we've got the pension. You have people talk about, I'm going to set my child up with a pension. That's, you've got a baby. Well, they're getting that in 50 years' time. What about your pension?
Yeah.
Because if you're not financially stable, then your child's world isn't going to be financially stable either.
Yes.
So if you can't pay the bills, that impacts on your child. So great, you might have got them an ISA or a pension, but they can't get that for however many years anyway.
Yeah.
So kind of, it's the whole like put your own life jacket on first, that kind of mantra. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, so create a budget and have insurance in place, and prioritize your financial foundation first before you necessarily focus on building for your children's future. What key areas of family finances then do you think mums should focus on first?
So I think, and actually I know we keep saying mums here, I think if you have a partner, then I think it's really important that you're kind of looking at this together.
Okay.
Because I think often in a family, the children's stuff or the family stuff falls to, like, day-to-day stuff falls to mum, and then like maybe like what's seen to be like the bigger issues, bigger conversations, maybe in a heterosexual partnership would fall to the man, fall to dad. And I don't think it necessarily should be that way. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think everyone should try and be across everything.
Yeah.
So I think number one is making sure you have if you're raising children with someone else, both trying to be on the same page about what that looks like. I think if you haven't had a child yet, so for a lot of people, this is probably a bit late for this conversation, but if you're planning on having a child with someone, I actually think having a conversation about, like, what do we think this is going to look like? What do we think, like, the day-to-day is going to look like? Are we going to be taking time off work? How are we going to split that? What is the impact of that? I think having those conversations up front is so, so important. And then once you know what that's going to look like, then you can plan for it, and then you can look at what the money looks like. So maybe then if you're working, like if you're employed, it's looking at what your work would give you in terms of like parental leave. Like, how much are they going to pay you? Is it going to be enhanced because they top it up? Is it full pay? Is it half pay? Or is it statutory, right? Because you need to know those figures. Really, really important, because what you don't want is to be really, really surprised that, oh, actually, I'm going to be off work for, I don't know, like a year.
Exactly.
And actually my income is going to drop so dramatically, and you haven't like built that into your budget. So I think beforehand having those conversations, then when there's a child there, I think it's again keeping talking about it, because things are going to change. Like, expenses will be different. You're probably not going to be going out as much, but then other things might go up more. So maybe you're not out of the house as much, but then if you're in the house, does that mean that like heating and energy is more? It's just kind of trying to plan and see what that's going to look like. But also I think it's reminding yourself that if you're not physically going out of the house to work, that you are still working. So I hear a lot of people say like, oh, I'm not working, or I'm off work because, baby is 6 months old or whatever. You're off paid work, or you're off like going to your day job or running your business, but you are still working. You are still raising a human. And I think if you're in a relationship, that needs to be valued in a way that I don't think currently is within a lot of relationships or within society. It's really, really important. So I think a lot of people think, oh, they're not bringing anything financially. We absolutely are, because we all know about childcare costs, right?
True.
So if you weren't at home looking after your child, that child would be in childcare, and there's a cost to that. So there is a financial value. So remembering that and reminding your partner of that if they need reminding.
Yes, that's really good.
That there is, like, you know, you're making a joint contribution. You've decided that you're going to contribute in this way, and maybe your partner's going out to work and bringing in money, but it's different contributions, but they're both of them mean that you can have a family.
Yes.
So not forgetting that, because I think a lot of people do.
No, and I love that you mentioned that, because I think there is sometimes that shame and that stigma of being a stay-at-home mum and just like you're not doing enough or bringing enough to the table. It's like, oh, you bake cakes all day or you clean house all day and you're not really doing much, but actually they're doing a lot, and that job is a 24/7 job, so it definitely should be valued and viewed in that way.
Yeah. And then I think other thing that is, like, to try and, like I said, to have the conversations with your partner, but then being aware of, okay, now you're a parent, what is available to you? Because there is quite a lot of government support available to a lot of people. Not every single person will be eligible for everything, but generally most people are eligible for something. And every year, I think I saw this statistic, every year 23 billion pounds worth of benefits goes unclaimed.
Wow.
Which is it's just mind-blowing, right? And some of that relates to childcare related benefits, so child benefit. Tax-free childcare is a massive one that's hugely underclaimed. And then the funded hours. And so most people will be entitled to something. So I'm always like, you want to make sure you're maximising your income, and that could be through your work that you're doing or your business that you're running. But then if there's extra support out there, then go and get it.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I like what you said there in terms of understanding the government support that is available. That statistic is insane.
It's ridiculous,
like, to think that much has gone unclaimed. I think a big reason for that is a lot of people don't realise what they're entitled to, because they think, I'm a working person, so I'm the person that contributes to these benefits for others, but don't realise actually that they're entitled to a lot of it themselves. So just quickly, in your own words then, or not, doesn't have to be quick, sorry. So can you quickly answer the question?
Keep it short.
Keep it short and snappy, right? No.
Right. I've been told.
It doesn't have to be quick at all, no. Sorry, that's really funny. No, in your own words then, if you could tell us a little bit about the government support that is available to mums. So in terms of the tax-free childcare that you explained about, that you mentioned briefly, if you could tell us a bit more about it and what the entitlement entails.
Yeah, sure. So there's three main ones that I'll cover. There are some others,
but
I guess the first thing I would say is there are benefit entitlement calculators that people can use. Anyone that's listening to this who thinks, oh, actually, I've never done one of these before, it's always worth checking, because it might not just be the childcare related things that you might be entitled to. So, for example, if you're a single parent household, or there's a single adult in a household, or there's two adults but maybe one is studying, for example, there may be some council tax support that might be available to you. So I would definitely say go and do a benefit calculator and see. But,
where would you do that?
So there's a couple of websites that you can use. The first one is an organisation called Entitled To, and then the other organisation is called Turn to Us. So probably put the links maybe in the...
Yeah, I can put the links to the show notes in the description.
Cool. And then there's also a one on gov.uk. So I would try them and then just see what comes up, because what they'll do is they'll say, okay, well, based on the information you've given us, we think you could be entitled to X, Y, and Z. And then you can then go and check and see if you're entitled to those things. But from a childcare perspective, it's three main ones that I'll cover. It's child benefit, tax-free childcare, and then the funded hours. So child benefit is one of those benefits whereby you're entitled to it, but it depends on how much you earn. So if you earn up to £60,000 in a tax year, so that's from the 6th of April of one year to the 5th of April the next year, if you earn up to £60,000, you're entitled to all of it and you can keep all of it. And it's £25, around £25 for the first child, and then around £17 for the second child and any extra children. And just something to say on child benefit, because there's a lot of confusion.
I'm glad you're going into
about
this.
The two child.
Yeah, because I thought that cap was real, but tell us about it.
Yeah, so a lot of people thought or think that there is a cap in terms of how many children you can claim child benefit for. There is no cap, right? So for child benefit, and there's other benefits where there might be a cap, but for child benefit, you can claim for every child you have. So let's say you had 10 children, you'd be incredibly tired, but you could claim child benefit for every single one. So the first child would get about £25 a week, and then the other 9 children, you'd get about £17 a week. I think it's like £16.95 or something. Now, those are going to be going up in April, because pretty much every tax year, they rise in line with inflation. So they will be going up by a little bit. But there's no cap on the number of children.
So what was that confusing? Do you know why people thought it was capped at 2 children?
Because there's, and I think it's working tax credit. There is a benefit where you are capped to 2 children.
Okay.
And so people kept on referring to it as the 2-child benefit cap. But what they meant was the 2-child benefit cap, not the 2-child benefit cap.
Okay.
It was literally almost like a play on words. So, but for the child benefit, there's no cap. Okay. Have we explained this enough?
Yes.
Do you think people know?
I hope so. I really hope so, because I believe that cap was true until one of my friends told me when she had so I believe that was true until one of my friends, she was on child number 3.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how we got into a conversation about child benefit. And she was like, oh yeah, I get child benefit for all 3 of my kids.
Yeah.
I was like, well, no, you don't. It's capped at 2 children. And she's like, no, it's not. I've been getting it for like the past 5 years for all of my children. And these times, my 3rd child was probably like 3 years old, and I hadn't claimed it for all of those years because I just thought it was capped at 2 children. I didn't realise that it was a thing. And they only backdate you like 6 months or so. So I missed out on all those years of child benefit for my 3rd child because I thought that was a thing that you couldn't claim. And for thereafter, I was able to do it for him and my 4th one. But I was like, wow, where did I get that information from? Because I literally thought that was true, but it's because of that confusion, that 2-child benefit, that play on words.
Yeah, and I get really frustrated by a lot of this actually, because I think we are left to find out a lot of this stuff ourselves, and I'm actually working on something that I it's not finalised yet, but I'm hoping that through the system, the healthcare system, when you are pregnant, you are given a lot more information about these things.
That's good.
Because at the moment, I don't think you're given enough. When I had, so my daughter's 6 now, there was a form, you get this thing called the bounty bag. I don't know if you still get it or not, right?
Yeah.
And there was a child benefit form in there.
Yeah.
But it was amongst like, here's like 10% off for like a photo shoot with your kid. All this random stuff. And let's be honest, you just left the hospital with a baby. Like, you're probably not thinking, I'm going to go through this. Oh, let me fill out this form.
No.
Like, so I don't think it's a great place to put it in the first place. And no healthcare professional mentioned it to me.
No. Never.
So I just had to kind of find it, and luckily I did, and that's fine. But what if you don't find it?
Exactly.
Or what if, for example, like you thought because of this wording you kept on seeing, you thought there was a cap, and nobody at any point, I mean, they knew you had 3 children, right? No one said to you, oh, do you know you could be claiming that? So I find that frustrating that we don't know or we're not told. So watch this space on that. But
brilliant.
But yeah, going back to child benefit, because we've taken a bit of a detour. But so if you earn up to 60,000, then you can claim it in full and keep it in full. If you earn between 60,000 and 80,000, you get to keep some of it, but then you have to pay some of it back. So let's say you earned 70,000, you'd have to pay half of it back, because that's halfway between the 60 and the 80. And then if you earn 80,000, 80,000 or more, you're not entitled to it. And the way they work it out is they look at your household, and then they see who's working, and then they take the salary for the highest person. So let's say there's 2 of you, and you're both earning 50,000. As a household, you're earning 100 grand, but because you're both earning under 60,000, then you get to keep everything. But if you had a household where one of you was earning 70,000 and one of you was earning, say, 20,000, so 90,000 overall, so actually less than the previous household, but because one of you is earning between 60 and 80, you only get to keep half of the child benefit. And then if you earn over 80,000, let's say someone's earning 85,000 and someone's earning 10,000, because you've gone over the 80, you don't get any of it at all. So those figures, kind of the important bits, the 60 and the 80, they are, now I'm going to get this the wrong way round, it's either net adjusted income or I think it's net adjusted income is what you need to look at. And if you go to gov.uk, it will explain to you exactly what it is, but essentially it's your taxable income, minus there's a few things you can take off it. So go and have a look, because a lot of people I think, oh, they're not entitled to it. because they earn too much, but actually it might be that they are entitled. There's a calculator that you can use. You put in your information and then it tells you. But I know so many people who are like, oh, I didn't realise I was entitled to that. Or like you, I didn't realise I could have it for that many children. So it's definitely something that I think people go and have a look at it. And also, just to add one more thing, is that the 60,000 used to be 50,000. It was 50,000 for a long time. So there's a lot of people who weren't eligible, but now have become eligible because it's moved up to 60.
Okay.
So again, if you've looked at it in the past and you've thought, I'm not eligible, just go and check again, because you might now be eligible.
Okay.
The other great thing about child benefit is that by claiming it, you get national insurance credits, which count towards your state pension. So at the moment, if you want to claim be entitled to the full state pension when you reach pension age, you have to have contributed at least 10 years worth of national insurance credits for any of the state pension, and then 35 full years of national insurance credits for the full state pension, which is currently £220 a week. So it's not like loads and loads of money, right? But you have to have got those 35 full years. So if you think about somebody who maybe is in and out of work a little bit, maybe because you're raising children or you haven't been able to work, lots of the benefits when you claim them, they give you those national insurance credits, because they think actually you haven't been able to work to pay national insurance, but you still need to get some national insurance credits. So by claiming child benefit, you also are entitled to those national insurance credits. You can do something where and this is what I suggest to everybody who isn't entitled to the payment. It's a really stupid system, I believe. Please change it.
No, because even in that exact example that you gave, I could see that the maths doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Because the £100,000 couple are getting a child benefit.
Yeah.
Whereas the 100,000 split differently. Not 100,000. Yeah,
the 90,000. Yeah. Get some of it, but not all of it. Yeah.
Even the other ones were earning more.
The previous government had said that they were going to stop looking at like the highest earner and start looking at the household, which makes a lot more sense, right? But unfortunately, this new government that's come in said they're not going to do that, and they're just going to keep it at looking at the single highest earner. So unfortunately, everyone was looking forward to the fact that actually what doesn't seem to make sense, what isn't fair, was going to become more fair, but unfortunately it's not.
Oh, that's annoying.
It's very annoying, yeah. So yeah, reasons to claim child benefit, because you get the actual payment but then also national insurance credits. Now, if you earn over the 80,000, so you're not entitled to the payment, or if there's somebody in your household that earns over 80,000, so you're not entitled to the payment, you may still want the national insurance credits. So you can fill out the form, and there's a box that you can tick where you say, I don't want to be paid, but I want the national insurance credits.
Okay.
Now, it's obviously, I believe it's a really stupid system, right? Because a lot of people don't know that even exists. So they just think, oh, I'm not entitled to because maybe my partner earns too much money.
Which is what a few of my friends have done,
Yeah, but you can go and you can tick a box that says, I don't want the payment, but I want the credits, and then you'll still get the credits. So it will count towards your pension. So again, if there's someone listening that hasn't done that, then you can go back and do that. So that's child benefit.
That's really good. Thank you for sharing, because that's so many people are probably going to go and do that based on your information. So no, that's
good.
Brilliant.
I hope so, because there's just too many people missing out. I think.
Because we don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's like, you're an expert, that's why you have this information. But for the general public, no one's told you this. So how would you know?
Exactly. Very frustrating.
Yeah. But on to the next one.
So the next one then, I'll talk about is tax-free childcare. So this one, there is again an eligibility criteria. So you have to earn basically below. The maximum you can earn is 100,000, and it looks at that again. It looks at the highest earner in your household, and if you qualify, you're entitled to. It's effectively the government gives you extra money to go towards paying for what they call approved childcare. So it'll be things like nurseries, childminders, and there's like a list that you can look at to make sure that your provider is on there, to make sure that you can then actually use the government support. So it's up to £2,000 a year. So every quarter, every 3 months, you put up to £2,000 in this account. Then the government gives you 25% bonus on it. So you put in 2,000, they give you 500. You put in 2,000, they give you 500. So over a year, you've put in 8,000, but they're giving you 2,000. So again, I'm like, who doesn't want £2,000? If you're paying for that childcare anyway, and the government's saying, here, have £2,000, like, why would you say, no, thank you? I quite like spending my own £2,000. I don't want your money. And this is per year, right? And this is also per child.
20%, right?
25%.
Oh, is it 25%?
Yeah, so you put in 2,000 and they put in 500.
Okay.
So because this is per child and per year, so let's say for you, four kids, right?
Yeah.
So let's say they were in childcare for 4 years, from 1 till they start school at 5. That's 4 years worth of £2,000. That's £8,000 that you could get from the government per child. You've got 4 kids, 8 times 4. This is not money that we should be leaving on the table, right?
It's
so
a big amount of money.
It's huge. So again, go and have a look. All of this stuff is on gov.uk. They'll have the criteria for what you need to satisfy to qualify. And then I believe it's a really easy application. There's a bit of faff. You have to fill in a form. You have to get like the government gateway login details, which means because you do it all online. And then every 3 months you have to do this thing called reconfirmation. So you have to say, yes, I still qualify. But it's literally a couple of taps, a couple of clicks. I read sometimes when people are like, oh, it's just so much hassle. I'm like, it's £2,000.
Yeah. It's worth the hassle.
£2,000. Like, you have to maybe you get an email, you log in, you click maybe 5 things, and then you log out again. That's a very good hourly rate when it takes you 10 minutes. So personally, and that's one that's really massively underclaimed. A lot of people don't even know it exists. So when I went to the mortgage advisor, I would ask people about their expenses, and then I need to know about their dependents. So I'd be like, so you told me you've got 2 children, you've told me their ages, you told me they go to nursery, but I can't see any payments being made to their tax-free childcare account. And they'd be like, what's that? And I'd be like, oh, well, your children are 5 and 3, so you've missed out on that. So yeah, again, it's another thing that I think people should be told about.
No, absolutely.
Which is why we have podcasts like this, right?
Exactly. No, it's such an important one, this tax-free childcare, because that's another one that messed me up as well with my kids. So my eldest is 10, sorry. My eldest is 10. And I didn't know about the fact that I could use their tax-free childcare account in their primary school.
Yeah.
So I knew about it for nursery, and I used it while they're at nursery. Even then, I didn't learn about it until he was 2 years old. So I missed out on it for a year. But when I finally did it, I was getting the government top-up that you mentioned. But then I didn't realise that it carried on into their primary school as well. So for their after-school clubs, for their trips, I could pay into that account and get that government top up to go towards it. One of my sons went on a trip the other day, which was £250, or last year he went on that trip, sorry, for £250. I was like, so I could have used that account and got the government top up for that trip, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
I literally found out last year that I could use it, and that was just by accident through the mums WhatsApp group. So that was one of the times it was beneficial being in that group, because one of the mums mentioned it, and I said, there's no way. And she was like, no, yes way.
Yeah.
And we'll go back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, this school, why did they not tell me? But
yeah, and to be fair, my daughter's nursery, I found this stuff out, right? They didn't say, hey, you can use all of these things. So yeah, it's a really good point. Actually, I did mention that, but it's a really good point you mentioned. You can use the tax-free childcare. It's not just when they're babies or at nursery. So yeah, I use it for my daughter's after-school club. I think you can also use it for breakfast clubs.
Yeah.
You said you can use it for holiday clubs as well.
I did not know.
Yeah.
I was like, wait. So I've been a mum for nearly a decade at this point. I think he was 9 at the time when I found this out. So for 9 years, I'd missed out on all of that opportunity to get the government top up for all of those school activities. So yeah, it's a big one that people are missing out on for sure.
Yeah. And then the last one is the funded hours.
Yes.
So again, the criteria is very similar to the tax-free childcare. So it's being under that £100,000 salary mark. But you basically, it depends on the age, how much you get in terms of funded hours depends on the age of your child. So at the moment, if your child is up to 3 years old, so between 9 months and 3 years old, you will get the 15 hours per week. But it's 15 hours per week, but they say based on a 38-week year. So they basically match it to school term time. So in reality, if you can spread it out across the whole year, which a lot of nurseries will let you do, it's then 11 hours a week. But you could get 11 hours a week free. So it's like a day and a bit, right? Which with childcare costs being how they are, like we'll take all we can get, right?
Yes.
And then when they get to age 3 currently, you can then get 30 hours because all 3-year-olds will get 15 hours, and then you've got the extra 15 like a top up. But by September 2025, everyone from 9 months old will get effectively up to 30 hours. So it's definitely something to look at again, because I remember when my daughter's childcare bill dropped because she was then became entitled to the 30 hours, and it's such a big drop.
It's like a pay rise, right?
It's amazing. You're like, what? Like, I'm rich. Have you seen that meme where it's like, when I stop paying the nursery bill, there will be signs?
Seriously.
And it's like someone on a yacht. Someone like
living my best
with,
life.
literally, right?
Rich.
Because it's a lot. The money that we pay, it's a lot. And what's really frustrating about it is that it's not like the nurseries rolling in it. It's not like the people that work there are being paid these crazy amounts of money, right? So it feels like we as parents are paying so much, and I'm sometimes like, where is this going? And like nurses, I think in the main do like an amazing job. But yeah, like we're paying a lot for these things. Like we really need to make sure that if there's money that can help us, or if we can get money off because we're claiming these funded hours, we should be doing it. Absolutely. And also tell your friends, because if you're finding out about all of this by listening to this podcast, it may be that you've got friends that don't know this either. Send the podcast to them, or tell them to go and look, because there's too many people that's missing out.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important that we have this conversation. That's why I'm really happy that you came on today to discuss, because I think I'm not stupid. I'm like, I can't be the only person that didn't know about these things and take advantage of them. And I guess even though it might be embarrassing to think, oh my gosh, how did I not know this all this time? Now you have the information. Yeah. Make sure you take action with it. Don't just finish this episode and move on with your day. Actually think, no, go on Google, literally search these things that we're speaking about and take action, because you're missing out on, like you said, free money, which can go a long way, especially in these economic times, which is another thing that I wanted to ask you about then. In terms of these economic times, the cost of living, we all know it's insane at the moment. Our money isn't going as far as it was once going. What advice would you give to mums or parents in this position right now where navigating the cost of living is a big struggle and a challenge?
It's a really hard one, because I guess it's about increasing our income, but how can you do that, right? There are ways to do it, but it won't be the right thing for everybody. So if you're going out to work, can you get a pay rise? And you might think, I can't get a pay rise immediately, but what can you do to put you in a position where you would be in a better place to ask for one? So is that about upskilling? So I rinse your employer basically for all that you can. If they're offering you training courses, do all the courses, because it makes you more valuable as an employee to them, but also makes you more valuable elsewhere as well. So bolster that CV, do all the things that you can do, and then maybe that will help you maybe get a pay rise at work, or change jobs and get a pay rise. Claim all the benefits that we've said. Yes. And then is there any other work that you can maybe do if you've got time? And I always struggle a little bit with this one, because I know everyone's like, but there's 24 hours in a day and everyone's got the same 24 hours in a day. But like, I think we also need some time to just live and be, and we're working every single second or moment. Like it's a lot, right? Yes. Especially if you've got children, which, the kind of what we're talking to here. So yeah, there may be some side hustles that you can set up, but I think it's about working out, is it actually worth it? Because if you're giving up quality time with your children, for example, or your partner, if you've got one, or you're giving up time where you just need to rest, right? Because I think we're running around, we're doing all the things, we're not sleeping, it's a lot. Like, I think sometimes we just need to rest. So you need to look at, is it worth it, really? And if it is, then go for it. But also be okay with saying, maybe it's not, and maybe then I need to look at cutting back. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, the cutting back it's all the kind of the usual stuff, right? Like, are you spending in places that you need to spend? Are there cheaper versions of what you're buying that you could get? Do you need to buy it at all? I think when you have children, it's very easy to, and I totally get it, right? Because I've got a daughter myself, to want to give them the world, right? You want to give them all the things that they want, but equally sometimes they don't need all that stuff. We know what it's like. You have like an event like a birthday or a Christmas, and they got all these toys, and then they play with one.
Yeah.
Just for, and you're like, hang on a minute, what about all these toys?
Yeah.
And there's just one favourite
Yes.
they like. I do things like so my daughter, if she gets lots of presents for her birthday, the presents are all with her for a bit, and then suddenly some of the presents disappear to the loft because you're not playing with them all. So I can give these to you throughout the year, right? You don't need everything now. Can you use, like, if it's a toy thing, like, can you swap toys amongst friends and family? There are some companies where you can rent toys for a bit and then swap them.
Wow.
So I think that helps with people like with storage and stuff. But I think sometimes we get caught up and we've got to give them everything they ask for now, and it's got to be brand new. And I don't believe that. I think also when it comes to like clothes and school uniforms and things like that, these sales where the PTA often runs it, like where it's you buy the uniform basically.
Yes, yeah.
Because look, kids go to school and the uniform is trashed, right? Like, I was that mum, right, who was like, no, she must have this pristine uniform, and what, like, no, like the uniform gets trashed.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be brand new, all of it. Like, it's fine to get a second hand. Like, I think sometimes we need to get over ourselves.
Yes.
Who are we trying to impress here, right? Like,
yeah.
Sometimes I just think we need to, focus on what's important. Are they clothed? Are they fed? Are they loved? Are they safe? If you can tick all of those things, they don't necessarily need the newest thing that costs hundreds of pounds. That's going to put you in financial difficulty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think what you're leading to there is face your front. Sometimes just focus on what you're trying to do, what you're building, your family, your unit, and don't feel the pressure to give them everything because that's what you necessarily see other people doing. Sometimes just fix your eyes on what you're doing and don't be distracted by the noise.
Yeah, and we do that because I think people are more influenced by people they don't know that they see on social media.
Absolutely.
Than by their actual like friendship groups.
That's so true, you know.
We and I don't have anything against social media, but you're looking through all of this thing and like, I don't know, it's Christmas and someone's got this Christmas Eve boxes. When did they become a thing?
Never heard of them growing up. Never heard of them 5 years ago.
Right?
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying don't have your Christmas Eve box. That's great but if your Christmas Eve box if you could only pay for it with your high interest credit card, do you really need are the children gonna be like, are they gonna grow up and gonna be in therapy because you didn't give them a Christmas Eve box? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like, who are we doing this for? God, I'm getting a bit ranty, aren't I?
Yeah, no. Just speaking the truth at the end of the day, and I think it is food for thought because sometimes we do need to pause and reflect and really consider our choices and consider why we do what we do, because a lot of times we just do things automatically in response to what we see without necessarily asking ourselves why and actually questioning ourselves as to, does this actually align with me, my values, my goals, where I'm trying to go as a person, as a family. A lot of times we're just kind of easily swayed by what we see other people do, but because we don't pause and stop, we're just constantly consuming. We don't necessarily take that time to really consider, actually, am I doing this because I want to, or am I doing this because I see everyone else doing it? And it's funny you should talk about this because I had to check myself on that when it came to birthdays. It was, in fact, it was my husband that checked me on that when it came to birthdays, with the boys' birthdays, because I do like these big elaborate birthday displays, right? We do all the balloons and all the presents, and it's just a whole big thing, which I started like maybe 5 years ago, and I still do, but a smaller version of it now. But I remember one year it was one of my son's birthdays, and I was just kicking up a fuss like, no, I need to do this, I need to do all of that, like, make everything look perfect. It's like, would you even do this if you weren't posting it on Instagram?
What was your response?
Of course I would.
Was that
what
truthful?
do you mean?
Was that truthful?
Probably not. No, it definitely wasn't. It made me check myself because in the moment, obviously, I was defensive and I was like, excuse me, no, I'm doing it for my son. Like, but actually, was I doing it for my son? Like, where did this even come from? Was this an idea of something that I wanted to do, or am I doing it because I see everyone else posting these lavish displays for their kids? And I'm like, no, I need to do it for my child too. He had no idea what all of these things were until I introduced it to him, right? So him checking me on that and him pulling me up on that and mentioning it, it made me actually stop and take stock of what I'm doing and consider, actually, why am I doing this? Am I doing it just because I want to, or am I doing it to get the likes and the validation from my followers and people saying, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, happy birthday to my son that's never going to see this post.
But I'm not, as I'm saying all of this, I'm by no means perfect, right?
Yeah.
So it was my daughter's birthday recently, and I feel she's an only child, right? So I think I'm a bit like, I want to make it even more special type thing. And so I bought her quite a few presents. There is one present that she's playing with. The others are still in the box. I am taking them back because they were not cheap. I'm taking them back. She has no interest in them whatsoever, right? And she's got her birthday in November, and then it's Christmas. So in the space of like 6 weeks, she has a lot of stuff. I'm like, there's stuff that you're playing with, and there's stuff, the thing that she's playing with is far cheaper than the thing that she's ignoring, right?
Wow.
So, I mean, she did tell me she wanted it, but like, she's not looked at
Your
it.
actions are telling me something different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's still in the box. She has not even opened it.
Wow.
Yeah? She does not care for that. I'm taking that back and I'm getting my money back. She will buy. I'll buy her something else with it. Yeah. But why? I don't like it. It's taking up space, and she's not using it.
I can't believe you're going to return her birthday present.
I'm going to return her birthday present and get her something that she'll actually play with. Because I think I don't put her on social media, so I wasn't going to take a picture of her with it. But I think for me, I was like, she wants all this stuff, and maybe that mean I'm a better mum if I get her this stuff. And she's an after school club a lot, and I feel bad about that because I'm working a lot. And actually, so I was doing that to appease my guilt, not necessarily for her. So yeah, I think I am going to take it back. You've actually reminded me. I need to take that back.
Oh no, I wish I didn't mention it now. Sorry, baby. Yeah. But no, it is good to sometimes have these conversations and sometimes just pause and reflect on things. And yeah, it's not every day just spend money that you don't need to spend, because actually there's so many other things you can put it towards that would help your family a lot more. So then, just in closing for me, just final question for any mums listening to the show right now. What's one last piece of final advice that you would give, or one key takeaway that you want them to take from our conversation today?
I would say you're doing a great job. You're doing the best that you can, and take the bits that we talked about on this conversation. So go and check your entitlements. Like you said, check yourself. Make sure that you're not buying things or doing things for the approval of other people, and you don't need to work yourself to death. Yeah. Yes, it's great to be financially secure and stable, and if you want to grow your income, that is also good, but I believe it shouldn't be at the expense of your own personal health. So have time for you, as well as having time for your family and your work and whatever else it is that you want to do.
Amazing. I think that's a perfect place to end the conversation. But just before you go, actually, in terms of people wanting to stay in touch with Hoops Finance and all the amazing work you do, where can they contact you? What's up next? Just final words.
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Instagram. My handle is @hoops_finance. And then I also post a lot on LinkedIn, actually. Yeah. So it's just my name, Funmi Olufunwa, and I'll pop up.
Brilliant. No, thank you so much for your time for me. It's been a really insightful conversation. And just from us having this convo today, mums are going to be saving thousands and thousands of pounds, hopefully.
I hope so.
If they take action. And that's what I would say before we go, actually. If you've listened to the show to this point, please don't just let it end here. Go away and think about, or not even think about, take action from what we've spoken about today is what I would say. Make sure you do one thing, even if it's check what you're entitled to, do at least that. Yeah, and we'll put all the benefits that I've mentioned. Yes. We can put the links to those different ones. So that's a good idea. Yeah, you don't even have to do it all at once. It doesn't have to be massively overwhelming. Because I know that for some people they're like, this is going to take a long time. Maybe just decide that you're going to do one a week, and then in a month's time you'll have done them all. Yes, yeah. That's good. No, thank you so much for your time today for me. Thank you for having me on. Yay, it's been great.